Hey everybody, what's up? Wrestlemania 8 today from the H.Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. And you get to hear it's big cities, it's big lights, bright lights, big cities. It's Indianapolis, Indiana. It's WrestleMania 8. Ric Flair promo, and then at the end, what we have right now is a man claiming to be the real world champion. Claiming to be the Federation champion. And then Macho Man, oh yeah, I pulled the tight Flair. I know it makes you tick. Do I even care? I don't even care. Yeah, I don't want the whole Flair package. Anyway, that's for Flair and Savage to do. I'm just me, Brett Mix here for Macho Wrestling 101. Please hit like and subscribe if you like my wrestling reviews. I pump them out daily. But today we are looking at a very special WrestleMania because 1, 2, 4, 5 were just meh. 3 and 6 were pretty special for the most part. 6 had a lot of filler in it, but still pretty special. 7 I thought had filler as well, but 7 to me is on par with 3 as being one of the best of the decade. And now we got WrestleMania 8, where 2 matches really stand out. The IC title and WWF title matches both stand out. Not the main event, but the main event has a special moment at the end. So, and some decent matches in between. So WrestleMania 8 is a pretty good show, but let's get to it. The 8th annual WrestleMania in front of 62,167 fans on April the 5th, 1992. This was the last WrestleMania in a stadium till WrestleMania 17, which was 9 years after this. The theme song of the event is called Worldwide Spectacle by Jim Johnston, who produced most of the wrestling themes. British Bulldog was supposed to meet the Berserker at this event, but because of time restraints, they had to pull it off. Rumor has it Ric Flair, during his match with Randy Savage for the WWF title, was caught blading and was fined $1,000 for this. The WWF were planning on having Flair meet Hogan, but they pulled that after poor house show results, and they were planning to have Macho Man face Jake the Snake. During the Cobra angle when Macho was bitten, they wanted to have a big WrestleMania payoff, but instead, right when Flair and Hogan was scrapped, they had Savage be the next man for Flair. So that means Hogan needed a new opponent, and there was Sid Justice at the time, coming back from WCW. So that's what they made. The only person without an opponent now would be Jake the Snake, so he was fed to the Undertaker for the Undertaker's second victory at WrestleMania. But before we get into that, Lex Luger, who was being billed as the narcissist at the time, did an interview for the event, but he wouldn't show up for months. Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan did commentary. They were on their game all night. This is Monsoon's 8th WrestleMania in a row and his very last as a commentator. He does commentary at WrestleMania 9, but he doesn't do the play-by-play. Jim Ross would be doing that. Alright, let's get to it. In the dark match, the Bushwhackers beat the Beverly Brothers. Alright, opening contest. Shawn Michaels with Sensational Sherry comes out to his modified Sexy Boy theme, taking on El Matador, which is Tito Santana, a veteran Tito Santana. Michaels and Santana had a good match here. Pretty good opener. Didn't drag in any parts. Tito launched himself up the wrong top rope with a slingshot, and then Tito hit a knee lift and an atomic drop. Santana leveled Michaels with a clubbing forearm. Michaels rolls out of the ring, counters a scoop slam, and uses his body weight to defeat Santana to get the pinfall. So Shawn Michaels puts away El Matador Tito Santana at 10:23 in the opening match. Good enough for 2 stars and 3/4. So a good way to open WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels is called, "This is the superstar of the 90s, Monsoon." That's what Heenan says. That was a bad impression too. Anyway, Jake the Snake Roberts faced The Undertaker with Paul Bearer here. I believe this is Paul Bearer's debut with The Undertaker at WrestleMania. I'm not sure if he came out with him at WrestleMania 7 vs. Snuka. I'd have to rewatch that. But he does come out here. Undertaker would improve to 2-0, as I said. He applied a tombstone piledriver to Jake the Snake outside the ring. In the end, he put him back at 6:36 after rolling him back in and finished with another tombstone. It was the tombstone on the floor that he finished with once he rolled him back in the ring. Jake was a bit off here. I'm not sure if he was. I don't want to say he was high, but he seemed a little bit off during this match. I give it a 1.5 just because I really like the two characters, and I think facing each other is a unique contrast. Jake the Snake versus the Undertaker. I just think the two characters mixing. I don't know if anybody else has that feeling, but I do. So I gave it at least a 1.5. It was a pretty bad match. But the next match, no way. Bret Hart took on Roddy Piper for the World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Championship. Great promo before the match where Roddy Piper's talking about the Hart kids being young and how Mrs. Hart had to tie his shoes. And then he's like, oh, your shoes are always tied, but that's okay. And then you talk about how she made it in lunches. Oh, yeah, she's slapping those Bret together. That's Roddy Piper. I can't do an impression of him. And then they get in each other's face, and he goes, not today, bye-bye, stay out there, she be mine. Talking about the Intercontinental title. So this match went on and on in a good way, because both these guys, they tried to one-up each other, and they were both baby faces, so they did heelish tactics, like Bret Hart pretended his knee was sore, and then all of a sudden he sprung up and did a suplex to Piper. Piper slaps him in the face. Piper's gonna hit him with the ring bell, and then he decides not to, and he puts it down. Then Piper uses his own momentum when Bret's not looking to get a leverage move. They both just, in the ring and outside of the ring, told such a nice story about two guys that have respect for each other, and both baby faces, and they still put on a technical match at the same time. In the end, Piper's sleeper was countered by Bret as he kicked out of the corner, and Bret was a bloody mess by this point, so it was a real war. Bret kicked out of the corner and held Piper down with his leverage at 1350 to come back with an epic finish and new Intercontinental Champion, a defining class for Bret Hart in his a defining match for Bret Hart in his career, a classic, 4 stars, and it's one of the best 4-star matches of all time. So that's what I'd give Bret Hart and Roddy Piper. That's one of the 2 matches I said were classics. Next, we got the Boss Man, Slaughter, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and Virgil against the Nasty Boys, Repo Man, and the Mountie. It's a standard 8-man tag match, frequent tags, action here and there. Bobby Heenan's commentary during this match was great. Shawn Michaels has left the building. Who cares? Monsoon says, who cares? Who cares if Shawn Michaels has left the building? And then he goes, I do, you big ape. What, will you be serious? That's great. I gave this a 1.5 stars. At 5:22, the Boss Man team won. Duggan when Virgil got the 3 count over at one of the Nasty Boys. Next, we got Randy Macho Man Savage with Miss Elizabeth versus the Nature Boy Ric Flair with his executive consultant, Mr. Perfect. So the real world's champion comes to the WWF, and his first WrestleMania match is against the Macho Man. As said in the earlier review, it was supposed to be Flair and Hogan. They scrapped that. Flair defends his title against the next best guy, and it's Savage. And, you really got to think. Flair, yeah, it sucks that we missed Savage and Roberts. That would have been a great match for WrestleMania. But in Flair and Hogan, it does make sense. But if you want to think about the in-ring product, Savage and Flair did miles better than what Flair and Hogan would have done. Think about it. Be honest. Think about the in-ring action. Flair and Hogan don't really have the best chemistry. It makes sense. I get it. Flair the 80s, Hogan of the 80s, they're both the biggest stars in their own brand. I get it. But I just really think that Savage and Flair told a better story. This was a war. Flair controlled the early part of the match with, Perfect handling him, doing some good heel tactics on the outside of the ring, distracting Savage, who just charged towards him, as this is an absolute war. Flair would cheat to get on the advantage for the first half of the match, and then the second half has Savage just kicking the living shit out of Flair. Flair's face flopping outside, he's bleeding. Savage runs him into the steps. He gives a double axe handle from the top. He clotheslines him. Flair's on his knee begging, and Savage just won't let him go. and he just kicks the shit out of him for the next 10 minutes, and it's not really just a burial, because Flair can't be buried. He's the champion. But I don't mean a squash is the word I meant looking for. It's not a squash, and the reason is because Flair gets the brass knucks from Perfect or whatever he handed him. It wasn't clear on camera, and Flair hit Savage down, but Savage kicked out. Even though he was like knocked out, he still kicked out. That's another great thing. Even when Flair had the figure 4 leg lock, they're both slapping each other, all bloody. This was a war. I can't believe this didn't make Ric Flair had 2 multi-disc DVD sets. This match wasn't on the first one. It wasn't even on the second DVD set. That's like 6 discs. And not one. That's how many good matches Ric Flair has. But this match was better than half of the matches on those DVDs. This is a 4.5 star match in my opinion. I haven't seen anyone say that this was just an average match. Everybody that's ever reviewed this match says it's a classic or it's great. And I'm telling you right now, it's great. Not just because I'm a Macho Man fan, but because it is great. The promos before and after really sold the match, but the guys did it themselves. They made it and they put on a classic. 4.5 stars. And new WWF champion Macho Man Randy Savage, who holds the tights down at the end and gets the 3 count on Flair. So again, baby faces doing heel mannerisms just to get the job done. When it's a war, when it's WrestleMania, you do whatever it takes. That's the message here from this Mania. Bret Hart and Randy Savage both did whatever it took to get the wins in their matches. Roddy Piper and Ric Flair had to lay down for them. Next, Tatanka took on the model Rick Martel. This was average. Tatanka defeated Rick Martel at 4 minutes 33 seconds. At least they keep the not so great matches short. I mean, the match had potential, and it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. If that makes sense. Just a 4-minute match. It seemed like filler. Next, we have the Natural Disasters versus Money Inc. for the tag titles. This was decent. Obviously, the crowd was really jacked from the world title match, and it took them a while to settle back in, but this match was a good match for that. It went 8:39. The Natural Disasters defeated Money Inc. and they did not give the straps, but they won the match as they won it by countout. So not bad. It's just that the dead crowd. The crowd couldn't generate any heat for this match. The wrestlers couldn't, rather. Next, we got the Rocket versus Alligator Man. Skinner versus Owen Hart. In the end, Owen defeated Skinner at 111 as he leaned back and had a leverage advantage for the pinfall. Skinner was a jobber, but good to see the Rocket Owen Hart get a match, not as the Blue Blazer. And now we have the main event, the Immortal Hulk Hogan versus Sid Justice. We all know what was going on with Hogan, and I've alluded to the Hogan Flair stuff. In the pre-match package, McMahon thanks Hogan because this could have been his retirement match as he was thinking about heading into Hollywood for good. One of the reasons they made Undertaker champion at Survivor Series, but then they put the title back on Hogan right after that. So this match wasn't for any title, but it's Hogan, so he gets the main event slot. And this is the last year where the Royal Rumble winner didn't go to WrestleMania. Flair won the WWF title in the Rumble. The next year in Royal Rumble 93 is the start of the winner goes to Mania, and that was with Yokozuna, but that's next WrestleMania. This was a fucked up finish. There was a botch at the ending. The finish to this Sid Justice Hogan match. Papa Shango ran out at the wrong time, or the referee screwed up. Whatever it was, Earl Hebner would disqualify Justice because of Harvey Whippleman's interference. So the final decision of the clusterfuck was that Hogan was ruled the winner by DQ at a painful 12:44. It was not a very good match. I gave Slaughter and Hogan over 3 stars, and so I'm being fair, but this match was a dud, absolute dud, and it's the main event of WrestleMania, so you can't, and it was actually a pretty good WrestleMania, so you can't, all things considered, so you can't really, that hurts the pay-per-view rating a lot. It does. It brings it down from really good to pretty good or just good. However, at the end, the Warriors music hit, and it's just epic. He runs down the whole entranceway, and the crowd is going ape shit, and he helps out Hogan and for the beatdown. So it doesn't touch the Savage-Flair or Bret Hart Piper, and it doesn't touch the other matches that were decent. But it's a great moment for the Warrior to come back. The fans were happy. It sent them home on a good note. Hogan's there, didn't lose, sends them on a good note. I rate this WrestleMania 7 out of 10. This was a lot like WrestleMania 21 in the sense where it had such a strong first half, capped off with a poor second half. Again, Savage, Flair, Bret, Piper stole the show, both of them. Both great matches, classics, and it's definitely a watchable event for those two matches alone. The other matches aren't terrible either, except the main event, but even that has the Warriors return. So that's it for WrestleMania 8. Thank you for watching my WrestleMania reviews. Stay tuned for the next one. I keep having fun reviewing them, so I hope you're having fun reliving them. I'm Brett Mix from Macho Wrestling 101. Please hit subscribe and like, and we'll see you on the next one. Brett Mix, and I'm out.